Finally, let us start with our useReducer hook. Now here, successfully, we are able to fetch our API data and we are able to display on console. Now, this entire data we should display on screen. So what we will do, we are going to use our state, that is nothing but useReducer hook. So here, below this function, here I will be writing useReducer. As soon as I click on this, useReducer will be imported from React library. And this useReducer will be taking two arguments. First is our reducer function, and then we are having our initial state. And in return, this reducer will be giving array which immediately we are going to destructure. Inside this, first I will be passing state, then I'm just going to write dispatch. So this is the convention which most of them must follow. If you want, you can give different names. Now above this, I will be creating my initial state. Below this, I will write const initial state, and this state will be an object. Inside this, what I have to pass initially, once my data is being fetched, I will not be having any question. Only once my data is fetched, I will be having all the question. So here I will be creating my state quiz question, and for this I will assign empty array. Why empty array? Because here inside this I am having array of object, and in total I am having 10 elements inside the array. Initially I will not be having any object, which means I am having empty array. So that is the reason default value I have set as empty array. Now, once I have my entire data, instead of displaying in console, what I want to do, I just want to dispatch action. Once the action is dispatched, accordingly, I have to fetch the data, and this entire state has to be updated. So let me show you. Let me keep this console as well. I will open curly braces, and here I will close curly brace. And here I'm going to write my dispatch function. Inside this, we are going to pass action, and that action is nothing but an object. So here I will be passing object. Then I will write type. I will give the type as fetch underscore success. Okay, this is the type, and inside this reducer function, based on this action, we are going to update our state. But inside this action, we can also pass multiple properties. So here we are having our data. So this data we should be passing inside payload property. Again, this is the convention. You can give any name for this payload. But here I am going to give payload, and inside that I have passed my entire array of object, which is having 10 object inside this array. Save it. Come here. Now I will be having this error. Reducer is not defined. So first let us create a reducer. So above this I will write function reducer, and this reducer will be taking our current state and an action as its argument. And this reducer will be taking current state and action as its parameter. So here I will be writing state. Then I'm just going to give action. Open this, and here what I will do, I will be writing switch statement. Inside this, I will be passing the expression as action.type. Why action.type? Because inside this dispatch, we are passing entire action, and inside that we are having type property. So here inside this expression, I am passing action.type. Why? Because inside this reducer, we are passing our action, which is nothing but entire object. Now what I want to do, I only want to check for this type. So here I am writing action.type, because whenever we want to access any properties from object, we are going to use dot operator. Then here I will write case, and first case will be this fetch success. Copy and paste. So inside reducer function, what we are going to do, based on this action, we are going to return our new updated state. We are not going to mutate our original state. Instead, we are going to return a new updated state. Why we are returning new updated state? Because our reducer is pure function. So here I will write return, and what I have to return? I have to return object. Why? Because our initial state is object. Inside this, what I will do, I just want to update this quiz question property. I will copy and here I will be pasting. So what I am doing, I am just returning new state. So now inside this quiz question, what I want to do, I just want to get this data, and this data is present inside action. Inside action, we are having this payload property. So I'm just going to access action, and from that action I just want to access payload property. So here I will be using dot operator. Now save it, come here, refresh this, nothing will be displayed. But now here what happens, successfully if I am getting the data, this dispatch will be triggered along with this action. So now inside this reducer function, what we are doing, we are just returning new state, and inside that we have updated our quiz question. Now inside this, what we got, we are having array of object. So by default, we have set as empty array. Now after getting this data, this quiz question will be having this entire data in this structure, and each and every object will be having our question data, and this question data we are getting from our API. So at this point, our quiz question property is updated, and in this way we are going to have this structure. But now what I want, when my data is getting loaded, I just want to render my loading component. So here inside this initial state, I will be writing status, and for this I'm just going to give the value as loading. Simply I have passed a string, and we have already seen why we are passing in this way, because we don't have to create separate properties for each and every different status. Instead, we are going to pass status is equal to loading, and accordingly we are going to update the status value inside our reducer. So this is the simple trick. It has nothing to do with useReducer. So now once my data is fetched successfully, what I want to do, I just want to change my status value to ready. I will just separate by comma. Here I will be writing status, and for this I will give the value as ready. Okay, that's it. Once I have fetched the data, what I am doing, I am fetching all the data, storing inside this property, and I am just changing my status value to ready. So only with this one dispatch, what I have done, I have updated both these properties. But in future, what happens, our application will be growing, and we will be adding more properties inside this initial state. So for safer side, whenever we are returning, what we will do, first we are going to make copy of our initial state, and accordingly whatever properties we want to update, we are just going to update that properties. So to make copy, we are going to use spread operator, and then I will be passing this state, separate by comma, and this state is nothing but entire object. So entire thing will be copied, and from that I am just updating my quiz question, and here I am updating my status. Suppose below this later I will be having points property, and here I have given 0. So in this case what happens, entire state will be copied, and we are only updating quiz question property and status property. So here in this case our point will not be updated, and it will remain 90. So that is the reason, first thing we have to copy entire object, and whatever properties we want to update, accordingly we have to pass that properties. Now I will remove these points. Save it. Come here, refresh this, close. Now you can see nothing is rendered. Now what I want, whenever my status is loading, what I want to do, I just want to render loading component. And we have already seen we are having different status values. So here above this, I'm just going to mention all those values. Here I will write status. And first we are having loading. When we are having loading, what we have to do? We have to render our loading component. Then second, we are having this error. If we are having any error, then we have to render this error component. Third, if our status is ready, what we want to do? We just want to render our header component where our start quiz button will be displayed. Then fourth, if our status is active, then I have to render my quiz main component. I have to render my question component as well as I have to render my next button. And this next button will be displayed only when I click on the answer. And finally, fifth, when a status is finished, what I want to do, I just want to render my end quiz component. So these are the different status values, and according to this different status value, we want to render this component. Now what I want to do, initially my status is loading. But before that, as soon as I fetch my data, what I have done, I have just updated my status to ready. So here I will come down. I'm just going to remove this entire div. Here I will be entering JavaScript mode. Here I'm just going to write state.status because from this state I'm just going to access my status property and I am checking if my status, if it is equal to ready, then what I will do, I just want to render my header component. Here I will be writing short circuiting and inside this I'm just going to pass header. Now here if you see we are having error. Why? Because directly inside return we are writing our JavaScript mode. So what I will do, here I will be writing React fragment. You do not have to create separate div. Instead you can only pass this React fragment. So when my status is ready, then I want to render my header component. Once I have this header, I simply want to import header. Here I will write import header from, I will come inside this components folder and from here I just want to import header. So initial value is loading, but after fetching the data, what we have done, we have updated our status value to ready. And here what we are doing, once our status is ready, we are simply rendering our header component. Now here I am going to come, you can see successfully my data is fetched and I am able to display this header. Why? Because as soon as my data is fetched, I am just triggering this action. Inside that I am having fetch success. Inside this reducer, this will be matched and it is going to return our next updated state. And here what we have done, we have just updated our status value to ready. Now I'm just going to inspect this. You can see successfully we have fetched the data. So that is the reason we are having this header component. But now how you will get to know the status value? Simply open this React DevTools. I will open this component. I will come inside this app. Now I'm just going to open Reducer. Inside this you can see our status value is changed to ready. Again I will refresh. First it will be loaded. It is loading very fast. So that is the reason loading is not displayed. But here if you see, as soon as my data is fetched, I am having status value to ready. And inside this quiz question, you can see entire array of object will be passed. But now each and every time writing state.status will be very difficult. So what we will do, we are just going to destructure our state. So how we will do? We are going to write const, and while destructuring, we are going to pass exact same property name. So here I will write quiz question. Then here I will be writing status, and from where I got from state object. Now directly I have destructured all the properties. Now instead of writing state.status, I can simply write status. Again save it. Come here, refresh this. Again inside this app component, successfully I have fetched the data. So this quiz question is updated as well as my status value is updated.